Good to go.
Yep. Awesome. I can start. Okay. Good morning,
Just a minute. I gotta put you on air.
Okay,
Hang on.
tell me when you're ready.
Okay.
Good morning, DC030 students. My name is Katie Birch, and I'm the cooperative education teacher for this semester. Welcome back to lesson number 2. I'm really excited that you guys are in my class. We've gone all the way from 3 students to 6 students today, so I'm super excited about that. Again, my name is Katie. I am the teacher for this course. As I do in every other class, I always remind you that communication is key. With co-op, there's a lot of back and forth that needs to happen between you and your workplace and me. So I always start with, how can you reach me? So you can call my cell, text my cell. That is the fastest way to reach me. My cell phone number is 807-738-3915. You can also email me at kburch@nnec.on.ca. And I'll spell that out for you too, for those radio listeners. KBURCH@nnec.on.ca. There's also a Gmail account you can email me at, but the fastest way to get me is to my cell phone, and then email me at my Outlook, my nnec.on.ca account. Okay, so another reminder. I know I feel like a broken record here, but all of our coursework is hosted here in Google Classroom. So it's really important that you are able to log in to Google Classroom. To get to my Google Classroom, it's very simple. You open a browser, preferably Google Chrome browser or Firefox. Safari works fine too. You can also put the app actually on your phone. It's a Google Classroom app. You will still have to log in though. If you need your login information, take a look at my contact information I just mentioned earlier and reach out to me and I'll help you get logged in. You go to www.classroom.google.com, and that will ask you to log in. And once you're logged in, there's like 3 sections to Google Classroom. The first section is the stream page, where if there's any announcements, you're going to see them in there. The next tab, which is what we're working mostly in today, is this classwork page. And then the people page, you don't really need to worry about that unless you want to send me an email. So today we're diving into the classwork page. But before we start today's work, you should have already completed the surveys that we did yesterday or in our last class and read through them. And after reading through the surveys, you should have had this LM1-6 filled out. So we are using this the information you got from the surveys we did yesterday to help write our resumes today. So keep it handy. If it's not handy, then maybe pause this video, because this class is being recorded. So pause, go and find it and pull it up. Or print off a copy. Having it right beside you and handy will definitely help you write your resume today. All right, let's dive into topic 2, part 1. There's 2 parts to this topic. Today we're covering resume writing. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about cover letters. So today I'm hoping that I can help you go all the way from start to finish to build your resume. If you already have a resume though, grab it, because let's use it as a sort of something to start from, and then we'll sort of modify it as you learn new things about how to develop your resume. So what is a resume? What are we covering today? We're going to talk about the types of resumes. There's different types of resumes for different purposes. We're going to talk about the parts of resume. I'm going to walk you through building your resume today. And we're also going to talk what not to put on your resume. And I'm going to add a little piece there. What not to leave off your resume, because there is a key piece, and I will tell you now what it is. It is always important to have references on your resume. Never end your resume with references available upon request. What that tells your employer is that you don't have references. So it doesn't matter if it's a friend, someone you've done babysitting for, it is important to have at least one reference listed on your resume. But we'll talk about that more later. Okay, before we actually start writing our resume, I want to let you in on a secret. So this is just a little scenario. It's called resume speed reading. Many employers get 20, 30, 100, 1,000, depending on how big the job market is, resumes at a time. So how does an employer get through 1,000 resumes? Well, I can tell you right now, they do not read from top to bottom. So 2 things to note here. Short and sweet, concise resume, which just means all the information is easy and clear and not very wordy, is really important, because this is an example. Nick reviews resumes for a large company. Whenever his company advertises a position, the company usually receives between 800 and 1,000 applicants. Nick's job is to pare that number down to 30. So how do you read 1,000 resumes? You don't. That's the answer. You scan one for about 10 seconds. So when you're first applying for a job, if there's several applicants, it's literally a 10, maybe max 30-second scan. So what this means for you is you have exactly 10 to 30 seconds to catch someone's attention with your resume. So that's why clean, concise, which concise just means not too many words, but specific, clear information. And I also like to add some color to my resume. It's pretty boring looking at black and white resumes all day. So those are my tricks for you. Okay, so what is a resume? We get asked to do this all the time. Very often in high school, you would have been asked to do a resume probably in your English classes. And what is it? So basically all it is a document that highlights your potential to a potential employer, the experience and skills you have, and how you got them. So it doesn't matter if you have skills and experience from non-paid jobs or paid jobs. Explaining on your resume how you acquired those skills is also very important, but in a very clear, concise way. So even if you don't have much paid employment, you can highlight other things. It doesn't always have to be paid. So you got to be a bit creative here. Your volunteer experience, maybe casual jobs like babysitting, and jobs that may not be paid but required specific skills like cutting the grass, food preparation. Maybe you work at community events where you do the cooking on the open fire. Maybe you smoke in your teepees or in your tents. Awesome. I still think that's a valid skill and something that can be applicable to the job market. Okay, let's talk. There's 3 types of resumes. So it depends on where you are in your life. If you've been working for a long time, your resume might be different. So if you're an adult student, you've had lots of jobs, that's going to be one type of resume. If you're a brand new baby high school student, you haven't had any part-time jobs, that's going to be another type of resume. So let's talk about the 3 main, there's other types, but 3 main types of resume, First is the chronological resume. This is a typical resume of somebody that has had a lot of work experience. Okay, so this actually probably relates to a lot of WASA students. Chronological resume starts by listing your work history. So if you have a lot of work experience, this is for you, with the most recent position listed first. Okay, and also I find if you've had a lot of experience, I sort of, depending on the job I'm applying for, I will highlight specific jobs that are related to the position I'm applying for. You might have had 25 or 30 jobs. You don't need to list them all. Start with your most recent position that you're working on, like either now or within the past year. And then from there, list the ones that sort of are relevant to the job. Employers, this says employers typically prefer this type of resume. It depends, like especially for co-op, I don't think an employer specifically is looking for a work history because many high school students don't have a big work history. But this gives the employer easy reference to see what kind of jobs you've held, when you worked at them. This is the most common resume type for somebody who's already been in the workforce, okay? This works well for job seekers with a strong, solid work history. So if you're starting your career, or you're changing your career completely, like you're going from a secretary to a heavy machine operator, this is not the resume for you. Okay. The next resume we're going to talk about is the functional resume. And a functional resume is something I would recommend for most high school students just coming out of school, not a great deal of employment history, a little bit of employment, a little bit of education. So the functional resume is the one we're going to write today, and we're going to go through that together. The only thing that changes is the order that you put your information. So a functional resume starts with your experience or accomplishments first instead of your work. Okay, so you would start with things you've done, whether it's you have your lifeguard certification, you have your WHMIS certification, maybe you're a Google expert. Those things would be highlighted first because you're leading with your strengths versus maybe you don't have too much work experience. It also sometimes includes a summary or headline at the top, which details your achievements. It might not include much employment history if you don't have any, but it might have a very concise list of work history at the bottom of the resume. Functional resumes are usually used by people who change careers, people who are new to the workforce, like just graduated from high school or still in high school and have limited work experience, or there's a gap in your employment. Like maybe you, if you lead with your employment and your employer sees you haven't worked for 10 years because you've been at home caring for children, then maybe don't use the chronological, right? Because it's going to say, well, she or he hasn't worked for 10 years. Well, no, you want to highlight the things you did, like child caregiving. That is an important skill, whether you got paid for it or not. We know that's a full-time job. I'm a mom and I have a husband, and we would both say that would be a full-time job. Okay, third type of resume. So we have the chronological, which is work first. We have the functional, which is accomplishments or skills first, then work and education. And then there's the combination. This is a good one too, where work history is not the focus, but it's at the top of the resume is still your skills and qualifications. It does highlight your work history, but history is not the focus. It mostly focuses on your skills and maybe your education. Okay, with this type of resume, you can highlight the skills for the job you're applying for, and you can provide work history. Most employers do want to see that you have work history, so you'll notice that that's on every resume, but you can be pretty creative with the work history, even if the work is an unpaid work. So this kind of resume is the best fit for a job, shows why you're the best fit for a job, but it also gives the employer all the information he or she looks for and wants. Okay, so we're going to chat about, can you use your resume for multiple jobs? Absolutely. I always have a resume in my Google Drive that's ready to go. Not that I've applied for a job in a long time, but having that copy of your resume in your Google Drive or wherever you store your files saves you time in the long run, because as you do new activities, you can just keep adding to it. So if you are in the position that you need to apply for jobs, you're not going back to scratch starting again. Okay, but customizing your resume for a specific job is also important. So like I said before, when you're choosing jobs that you've done, maybe you would specifically choose the ones that relate to the job you're applying for. Okay, how do you tailor your resume to the job description? Okay, so what the job description is key here. So when you're applying for a job, take a look, and just like you have a copy of your resume, you're also going to have a copy of that job description beside you. So open your resume and compare it to the job description. Literally go line by line. And I will tell you that if a job description is saying you must have this requirement, and you happen to have that requirement and you don't list it on your resume, you might not even get an interview. So I can give you a simple example of my husband, for example. He's a pilot. He applied for a job one time for a pilot, and a requirement to be a pilot is you have to have a radio license. And he just assumed that they're going to know that because he's a pilot, he needs a radio license. He has a radio license. But the problem is because he didn't state it on his resume, he didn't even get an interview. Because often when employers get so many applications, they actually run it through what's called a computer bot, where they run the resume looking for keywords that are in the job description. And if they don't see them, that resume just gets tossed. So if a job is asking for a specific thing like a radio license or Microsoft Office abilities, put it in your cover letter or your resume. Okay, so does your resume state you can do this? How quickly can I point this skill from the description to my resume and using the same language? Like I said, if those bots are searching for keywords, you need to make sure those words match the job description. Okay, chances are you might find several different or missing skills and keywords in your generic resume when going through this process. Okay, let's move to the next slide. See how we're doing for time. 9:15. Okay, let's write your resume. We're going to start and we're going to walk through it together. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find a job posting, because we want a job posting sitting beside us while we're making our resume. Hold on to this job description too for your cover letter tomorrow. So use the same description for your cover letter tomorrow. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to www.siouxlookoutjobs.com. Because it's a big job bank, if you're already in a job, find a job description here that's similar to a job you're already doing. If you're not in a job, find a job you would be interested in applying for, something you think you would have a decent amount of qualifications. So I have a teenager at home who's in high school, and I'm going to channel him. So I'm going to go look for a job as if I was my 14-year-old son looking for a job with Sue Hudson Employment Center. So you can see my screen here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the job city, and yep, you can apply for jobs everywhere on this website. Where's Sioux Lookout? I'm going to look for Sioux Lookout. I'm not ready for him to leave town yet. And I'm going to choose student because he's a student. And we're going to see what kind of jobs. Oh, goodness, no jobs. Okay, let's try that again. Let's find a job description. I'm just going to do general Sioux Lookout. And let's go to manual labor. That's something I know he can do. Okay. So it looks like, ooh, I like this one. It looks like Wasaya Airways is looking for a ramp attendant. Okay, so I think that's one that I'm going to choose to use for my job description. So once you find the job description, I want you just to click print this job, just like I showed you yesterday. Save it as a PDF in this little drop down here, okay? And hit save, and I want you to upload that to your portfolio if you like. So we're going to call it Wasaya Ramp Agent. Okay, make sure you save it somewhere where you're not going to lose it. And then you're going to go to, remember that portfolio I told you to save on your, here's my demo account. Okay, let's go to, there it is. There's my portfolio. See how I saved it on my bookmark bar? So easy. Now we're going to go new, file upload, and we're going to go find that Wasaya Ramp Agent. And I'm getting you to save this right away because then you're not searching for it later. Okay, so there's my ramp attendant. Something you obviously need to do is you need to read the job description. Okay, some things to note are major responsibilities. Okay, education and experience, skills and abilities. Now, something I've noticed in Sioux Lookout, particularly and probably in northern places, even though it states you need high school diploma, pretty sure that as long as you show you have skills and abilities to do the responsibilities, then I wouldn't worry too much about that at this point. In Sioux Lookout and probably in the north, you can pretty much do whatever, whenever, because there's such a shortage of employees around. But that's not the case in the larger centers. Okay, so I'm going to hold on to my ramp agent job description. And if you want to, you can actually grab that little icon and drag and drop it here, and then it will take you, oops. Okay. It's making me verify my account. That's okay. I'll verify. All right, so let's go back to my slides here. So hold on to that job description. If you want to, you can actually just drag it. Let me just grab, that's what you can do. So when you're in your account, if you have the job description open at Sue Hudson Employment Center, what you can do is you can actually just grab that little lock, drag it, and then it's always going to be there on your bookmark bar. Okay, let's keep going. We found a job. Now we're going to Google Classroom because we're going to go pick which resume we're going to write. And today we're going to do a functional resume, but you do whatever resume you feel is relevant to the job experience that you have. And if you already have a resume, upload it and just edit it and resubmit it based on the job that you're applying for. Okay, so we're going to go to classroom.google.com. Okay, just a reminder, Classroom looks like this, DCO 301A. We are going to the classwork tab. We're going to go to LM 2.6, the resume assignment. And I'll show you how to get to Google Classroom again. Remember, we're going to go to classroom.google.com. Okay, we're going to click on the class, go to the classwork tab, and you're looking for LM 2.6 resume assignment, and you're going to see that there's a few things in here. I gave you the link to Sue Hudson Job Employment. There's a few examples of the 3 types of resumes so you can see them. And then I've given you 2 potential resume templates, and these are all I believe they're functional. Yes, they're functional. So they lead with your experience and follow with your education. And skills are on the side here, but you could move them at the front. So I'm going to choose this one. Once you decide on which one you want, you can just open it up and it should automatically put your name on it. Okay. And we're going to get started on filling in your resume. Okay. So step 1 of your resume. You might want to pause and get yourself organized. Make sure you have your job description. I'm not going to pause because we are limited in time and someone else needs to do the studio right after me. But okay, let's jump in. So step 1, your name. The first thing that you're going to do is put your name. My name, I'm going to go as my son, Evan Birch. Okay. And then in the next section, you're going to put your street address. The number of your street address. Where am I living right now? Okay. Apartment 1, 27 King Street, Sioux Lookout. I think you could probably put it on one line in this one. If you want to add a little color to your resume, feel free to change the color of a few things. I think it just makes your resume stand out. Oh, goodness. What am I doing? I did it wrong. Sorry. Excuse me. It's because it's in Latin and I wasn't paying attention. Okay, this is where your statement goes. Over here is where your street goes. King Street, Sioux Lookout. Make sure you put your postal code there. In Canada, you should put a space. Put your phone number. Contact information is super important for your resume. Oh goodness, where's my? It's because my numlock's not working. Okay, put your phone number in there. So go ahead and fill this in. Let's do it together, just so you're not feeling all alone working on your resume. I know lots of teachers say, just Google how to do your resume. Well, no, I'm going to walk you through it. Please make sure that you put your email in there, and something to consider in this section. please make sure your email is something appropriate. And if it's not, I suggest you create a new one, because partyanimal@gmail.com is probably going to get you not to get the job. So make sure your email is professional and appropriate. And if it's not, get a new email. It's not very hard to create a new email. Okay, so pause the video, get your name and your address filled in, and then we're going to go to step 2, which is stating your objective. So let me go back to my slides here. Okay, what is your goal or objective with this resume? That's all it is. Include it. Be as specific as you can about the nature of the work that you're seeking. So one example is obtain a position as a salesperson at Spiffy Stationery. They give me a tongue twister. So the job we're applying for is a job for a manual laborer, a ramp attendant at Wasaya Airways. So you could be as simple as saying, obtain a position as ramp agent at Wasaya Airways. If you don't want to do that, you can also think of what sort of thing would an employer be looking for. So maybe you want to say, help passengers have a positive experience in our local air services. Okay, so this is where you would specify your objective specific to the job. So I'm gonna use help passengers have a positive experience in our local air services. I think that's very kind and friendly. And then you just put it there underneath your title. That's your objective. And if you don't like, I'm going to show you a trick. Okay, I don't like this. It's too big. And I want it to be this kind of font. See this little rolly guy up here? You're going to click on the font you do want, click this little rolly guy, and then all you have to do is click and drag. And ooh, look at that. It changes. So I'm just going to, excellent. Okay, I like it. Pause this video. Do you see what I did is I wrote down a few options for my statements just on a piece of paper, play around with the words a little bit, and then pause the video. This is where you should work on your statement. And then when you've done it, go ahead and add it to your resume. I didn't know if I could sneeze on air or not. Okay, so we've got our objective. Now we're going to describe your skills, because just like a functional, a chronological, people do want to know your skills. So we're going to do the same thing where we're going to list the skills. And that's where that document that we worked on yesterday, the skills they want, like where we looked at listing all your skills and how they relate to things you're good at, that's what we're going to put in this section here around your skills. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go over to just a blank document, just like I had here. I'm just going to open a blank slide, and I'm going to try and think of at least, I think I would say like 3 skills. So for my son, he's very proficient in the use of technology. And then he could potentially highlight Google Suite, Microsoft. You could even put it in brackets. Okay, another skill that he would have is he has some leadership skills, and that would be a karate coach and wrestling coach. Okay, so I mean, even just those 2, if you're not sure, you can be as creative as you want with your skills. Maybe you are very confident with, you are very specific and confident with cleaning. So maybe you are a commercial cleaner. Okay, or these are all things that you're really good at. Okay, so I'm just going to choose these two for my son. Do you see how I'm using another document to write my ideas down, and then I'm going back to my resume and just pasting it in there? And you see that the spacing's a little off. So you can just cut and paste one line at a time. That will help with that too. Oh, it's still not doing it. Okay, so I'm just going to manually type it. You could even list it. Okay, like I said, if they want, this is what the interview is for. You give them information that they can use, and then they're going to ask you about it probably in your resume. So it doesn't need to be full sentences, just a little bit of information about the skills. Maybe you have your lifeguard certification. Okay, and then underneath the skills is where you're going to list your awards. So in here, we're going to put brown belt, and then we're going to, it's because he's a brown belt in karate. There we go. And any other awards, maybe we'll put that you're a Google trainer. And then you'll put achieved Google certification. Okay. And once you've put the awards that you have in your resume, you can just get rid of the other spaces that you don't need. Just make sure it all looks good and it's lined up really nicely. Okay. So describe your skills. Let's take a look at that. Describe it says 4 to 6, 3 is okay. Skills or work habits you have that relate to the job you're applying for. So this is why you would have your job description right beside you. They should be tied to the things you're most proud of, like computer skills or leadership or athletics. Just think back to your high school. Remember, you guys are in high school, so don't panic if your experience seems unrelated to the job. Remember, we did this activity. Think about transferable skills that you've learned that do relate. So even though maybe being an athletic director doesn't relate to a labor job, it certainly has skills like leadership and teamwork that definitely fit into any job. So just be creative with what you select through here. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is, this is the point where you want to sort of fill in this next section where you fill in your skills, your awards, and any languages you speak. Maybe you speak English, French, and Ojibwe or Ojibwe. Okay, so you're going to put that in there. So at this point, I would pause the video and I would fill in your skills and your awards and languages. Okay, so we're at 9:30. Oh, I think we might get everything done on time today. Okay, step 4. We are working on summarizing your education. So your resume should tell the person reading it how much schooling you've had. Now, step 4, education comes first in like a chronological resume. Education comes after work experience in a reverse chronological order. If you have more experience than you have education, start with your experience. If you have more education than experience, start with your education. It all really depends on what job you're applying for. So let's start with education, just because that's where we're at. And it should tell the person reading it how much schooling you've had. Let them know what grade you're in or what you've just completed. Any secondary courses you've completed or things that are relevant to the job you're applying for, like courses taken outside of school for like hospitality, health and safety, first aid, and any awards you might have received. And that can go either in the awards section or you can also summarize it in your education section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to channel my son, and we're going to put school name, and he goes to Sioux North High School. And remember, you're going to put location, it's Sioux Lookout, or wherever you went to school. And then we're going to put grade 9 because that's where he's at, okay? And in here, we're just going to put September. It's actually funny that I'm saying this because today is his very first day of high school. I feel so old. Okay, September, what's the date today? 2nd, 2021. And then what we would put in here is grade 8 graduate. Prior to entering high school, I have already achieved 1 high school credit in the Reach Ahead program. And currently, I am taking transportation and music at the grade 9 level. Okay, in here, you can also list any education that you've had that may not be directly to high school. Maybe it's college, but remember, most recent first. So recent is high school, and probably the most recent education my son has had is Ministry of Natural Resources, Sioux Lookout. And the degree, it's not a degree, it's a PAL course, Hunter Safety course. And this would have been, if you're not sure what month, just be general. We'll call it October 2020 and November 2020. Okay, and then you could talk about the things. And if you're not sure you remember, you can talk about, just sort of use Google. Like you could literally open a tab and type in PAL course. Okay, and then it will tell you what it's about. Okay, so these are all the things that you can put that you covered. Okay, and you can list them. Just list the main few that are specifically relevant to the job. Like if he's applying for a ground crew at Wasaya, then you would probably want to highlight safety practices and safe handling and carry procedures. These are all things that would be relevant to a ground job working with Wasaya. Okay, so just choose the ones that would be specifically relevant to that job. Okay. And then what you can do is see how this text is not the same as this. Remember, we're going to use that special little tool, and we're going to just make sure that that text is relevant and that it looks good. Okay, so remember, you don't need a ton of detail in here because people are going to read your resume for how many seconds? 10 to 30 seconds. So make sure it's very easy to read. Okay, so once you've listed your education, the next thing you're going to do is list your experience. So you're going to put your most recent experience at the top and try and, if you have 25 jobs, pick the most recent job and then the jobs that are most relevant following. Okay, so the company, Darnley's Minnetonka Lodge, Minnetonka Lake, and we're going to call it laborer. And then you're going to put the date. So this is all the experience information you want to post in here, and just make sure that it all looks nicely lined up and relevant for the job. Like, formatting is important in developing your resume. Okay, let's go back and see where we're at here. So, summarize your education. Okay, then very similar to summarizing your education, you're going to describe your work experience. Okay, remember, reverse chronological order means beginning with the most recent events. Okay, often people will be like start to finish. Well, we want to start with finish to start. So list your job or volunteer experience in reverse order, starting with most recent experience and working backwards. Make sure you review all of your experience so you can provide a context. So include the name and location, your job title, dates you worked, and skills. You don't need sentences. They don't need a job description. Skills and extracurricular activities. So think of, we are going to do an activity, you are going to, as part of your homework, and you're going to review your job descriptions and see if you can pump them up a little bit with some more action verbs. So, okay, so pause the video, work on your work experience. Gosh, we're running out of time. Okay. Last thing, which we sort of already did that, we described your activities. And the step number 7 that people always make this mistake. So I'm going to clearly highlight this to you. Your references are the people that will vouch for your experience and say good things about you. Okay. They should be able to talk about the qualities you want the reader to know and have. Do not leave references off your resume. Okay. It doesn't look good. Even if it's just your cousin that you babysat for that will give you a good reference, put a reference on there. Okay. Your employer will probably check your references before hiring, and sometimes they even call your references before they interview you. You do need to let your reference know that they're going to be contacted, though. Because your resume may be going to several employers, state simply your references are available on request. I don't recommend that. Okay. You do want employers to only call people who are serious about hiring you, but at the same time, employers are not going to waste their time calling references unless they're considering hiring you. Okay. And on a separate piece of paper, list your references. Make sure it's on a separate piece of paper, and I'll show you in the resume here. Where did my resume go? There it is. Okay. And your references should come at the very end of your resume on a separate page. Okay, so in here you put references, and then you're going to put the name of the person, the job they hold, and then contact information. Okay, so I'll just put name, position, and then contact. And in there, put email and phone number. Okay. All right, so that's your task today, is to work on your resume. Let's see if there's one. And your homework is there's an activity listed in Google Classroom, which is LM 2.1, where you're going to, here it is here. Oh gosh. Let's go back. Okay, LM 2.1, let's just make that smaller. Job descriptions, and that's where you're going to try and play around with the job descriptions and see if you can work on these job descriptions and make them sound better. And this will help you make your job description sound better on your resume. So, all right, I think we're at the end of the class. What time is it? Oh, look at that. We did 40 minutes. That was my goal. I think we're going to end it there. Your task at the end of today's lesson is to finish up your resume. This is going to take a little bit of time, but we're really trying to get you through all the coursework so you can start collecting those co-op placement hours. So we're going to stop class there. I'm going to put my contact details back up on the screen. Don't be shy. Reach out to me if you need help, and I am always here to help. So thank you so much. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we are writing cover letters. So get that resume done. Submit it. I'll give you some feedback, and then you can resubmit as many times until you're happy with it. So, all right, have a great afternoon, and I will see you in class tomorrow. Thanks, Bertha.